I might need to readjust OBS one more time or Zoom one more time, but we're on. I think I'm slightly off to the side. You can't really tell because you can't see the stream. But I'm just gonna do it right now.
Just do it. Switch to it.
Yeah,
do it live.
We're way off. I did it live, and
who's gonna know?
Well, Dean will know. He's online right now.
Damn it! He's here to look at our sweet pups.
Dean presumably has seen you. Perhaps not at your worst, but
he's seen me in college.
He knows things about you, right?
I'm an open book. Is there really anything that I hold secret?
Yeah, he says Dom has no worst.
Wow, just laying on the feelings. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, I'm gonna go back to Talking Heads real quick. Okay, we're now better. We'll figure this out. I think the 720 means that I just get a 720p pixel image, which I can scale up, but it's gonna look kind of gnarly on stream, I think.
We're back on 1080 now, though.
I know. I was just saying.
I realized as soon as I saw the number, I clicked away and I was like, 720. And I was like, that's not the right number.
It's not
didn't realize that until I said it out loud to you. Yeah.
Oh man, computers, they just don't work. They
just don't work.
They just don't do what you want.
Yeah, maybe teaching Sam to do math was a bad idea.
Yeah. What'd you get up to this weekend?
What did I get up to this weekend? I had like a lazy weekend. I watched a lot of Westworld, which is great.
Oh yeah, good show.
Good show.
Okay.
Good show, but also is also Battlestar Galactica, essentially. You're just waiting.
Which
you're waiting to
person
find out
is
who's a robot?
Yeah, who's a robot? Yeah.
Yeah, and surprisingly, it's most of them. Well, I guess unsurprisingly, because much like Battlestar Galactica, I expect everyone to be a robot.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, did a lot of that.
So it's like a Nier Automata thing, where it's like it actually turns out there's only robots.
Ooh, yeah, kinda. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
I just spoiled the game for the stream, but that game is like 4 or 5 years old now, right?
Yeah, you can't spoil that.
Yeah.
And really, you haven't spoiled the experience, the journey that you take to get there.
I so wanted to love that game, and I bounced off of it twice before finishing it on my third attempt, and nice. I still didn't really. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I found that the things that people hype up like that, I have the least enjoyment with. It kind of kills.
Ooh, this is a fun game. Have you experienced any piece of media that has met the hype or even exceeded the hype?
I gotta think of some media. I feel like I maintain a pretty low hype standard.
Yeah.
When it's been hyped, I'm just like, okay, it will not be the goodness that you think it is. And that's been serving me okay.
So let me make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You receive recommendations from things from friends, from what you read. And generally it's like you're only going to try the things that have good recommendations. And some percentage of those things are going to be good. Right. So I'm curious to know what was well regarded and then you actually said, yeah, this is good.
I was going to say things that I thought were overhyped.
Okay. Fun. That's fun too.
I do not think God of War is the best game in the world.
PS4 God of War.
Yeah. And I do not think The Last of Us is profound. I think it's just sad.
Okay. Did you play part 2?
No, I don't want to feel bad.
Yeah. I found part 1 to be annoying. It had a kind of Naughty Dog, we'll just throw 50 guys at you in an arena.
Yeah, you break into a closed room that hasn't been opened in 1,000 years, some ancient tomb, and it's just full of Nazis who've been waiting the whole time, I guess.
Nazis.
Whatever you fight in those games, they're always some bashy kind of people.
Yeah, exactly. Zombies and preppers.
I was thinking Uncharted too.
Yeah. Oh, Uncharted as well. Yes. Yeah. I think they're Eastern European mercenaries. I think those are the primary bad guys. I'm having this thing right now where my monitor is kind of like flickering on and off.
That sounds very annoying.
Yeah, I think it's a Windows thing. Not sure if I trust this recent forced Windows upgrade that I just had to like restart my computer through.
Oh, it probably made everything use Microsoft Edge.
Oh.
There's your problem.
Oh. We'll see.
I'm looking through my games list too. I'm seeing if anything that was super hyped just let me down. I thought Doom actually was as good as the hype. I really fucking loved it.
You're talking about the new Doom?
Yeah, whatever the remake was, Doom 4, I think. It was great.
Doom Eternal, is it?
That's like Doom 4, the sequel.
Okay.
That's new. I haven't played that yet.
That was the one that came out like last year, right?
Yeah, but the older new one.
Yeah, and I heard it was good. I heard it was.
It was
really
very good. It was very, very fun. The hype was real.
What makes it? For some reason, I just assume that all FPS games are exactly the same, which is ridiculous because they're all pretty different. But that game just looked like you have a gun and you shoot things. I'm being very reductive here, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the mood, and it was like how extremely sort of silly it was about it. Like, there's one point, like the very first part of the game, you like wake up, you have to punch a demon, you get a gun, and you like walk over to a control panel, and someone starts explaining the story to you, but halfway through you just get angry and like punch it, and like rip the control panel off the wall before they can explain it to you, because you're just there to shoot things.
Right.
I don't know. It was it set its tone and then it ran with it and was like a pure experience that did not like try to do much more than that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It was, and also like, I don't know, shooting those demons was fun.
Right. So last time we talked about how I got a PS5, and the only game I've been playing is Control. Ultimate Edition.
It's pretty ultimate.
Which apparently I actually just got it in the nick of time.
Oh yeah, it goes away tomorrow.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I'd gotten it as soon as it came out. We have that reminder in our Slack, right? No, we don't have the one for PSN. I should probably set one up for PSN. But I got it a while ago, and I got it for PS4. But I think you have to claim it separately for PS5, which is weird.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you might have to.
Yeah. But I got it just in time, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it playing it at 60 FPS. It makes a huge difference.
That game really needed the upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I look forward to like replaying that at some point because it was enough fun for me to do that.
Yeah. It has more RPG elements than I initially imagined. A lot of upgrades. I think I like the first gun the best, though.
The first gun. Yeah, the pistol's the best one.
Yeah, just the standard shot. It's not automatic.
It's weird that there's more, to be honest, because that's all you ever need.
Oh, is that the way it goes? I bought all the guns that were available to me as they become available, because you need to do something with your money, right?
Yeah, I mean they're fine, but I also sort of just go back to that one because I feel like it's the one they made feel right the first time. It
has the scout rifle feel, which is that's the weapon I always play with in any of these like over the shoulder shooting games. So like Destiny and what was the other one? The one where you run around Washington D.C. in a post-apocalyptic America.
The Division.
The Division 2, yes.
Yeah.
I always play like the sort of like single shot rifles.
Nice.
Yeah.
Does Control have like the haptics? Does it make you sense things with your dual senses?
You sense footfalls, which are your own. So, and then it has what I find to be a really bad feeling trigger.
Oh, that's too bad.
Click. So I turned it way down.
Oh, that's cool. At least you can turn it off, yeah.
Yeah.
Or down.
I confess when I played Astro's Playground, I wasn't. I mean, obviously the controller's doing a lot, and I really admire the amount of technology that went into that, but it didn't like do anything for me that like I thought. I guess I just wasn't super impressed. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, the hype was over. It was overhyped.
Okay, so you feel the same way?
Oh no, I loved it, but like,
okay.
I hyped it too.
Okay, I see. No, that's how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. No, I thought. I mean, I had I had a friend come by with the most recent like Mario whatever,
Okay.
and like I liked Astros more than the Mario levels. It was just like a good little platformer,
Oh,
a
right.
short good little platformer, but like a good little platformer.
Yeah, the design is good. The design is good. I actually, to be honest, felt that way about Mario Odyssey a little bit, where I was just running through and I was kind of bored.
Hmm. Now, in Astros, did you get to like? Did you do all the levels? Did you get to like the ones with the weird motion
Oh,
stuff?
I only played for like half an hour or so.
Okay.
So I did have to blow into the microphone once or twice, which I'm like, no, please don't do
I
this.
fucking hate that.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had that for years and no one should do that.
Yeah, we started with it on Nintendo DS, and
It
I
was bad. It
actually
was bad then.
I worked on a game, maybe more than one game that had the blow into the microphone mechanic. And the reason why they do that is that when that much air hits the microphone, it's just white noise. And so all
Yep.
you have to do is just like average the on the DS, the microphone signal is just like a value from 0 to 128.
Hmm.
And you just average that over the frames, and if the average is over a certain value, you know they're blowing on the microphone. It's like the laziest friggin' thing you can do, because it's not like you can do anything else on a DS, really. This tiny little ARM core processor, like you're not doing any actual signal
Yeah, when
analysis
it's
or
just
anything like
like
that.
every time I've had a game do that, I find the act of blowing into the microphone like somehow not like I blow in the wrong spot on the controller, so it like doesn't register, and I have to blow too hard or something.
And then you see yourself, you have this kind of out of body experience where you're like, I'm
Yeah,
sitting on my couch,
just
whiling
blowing
away
it. Yeah.
the best years of my life blowing into a controller.
Basically, yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that mechanic is dumb. But I think the rocket ship in Astros is
Hmm.
like one of the coolest controller experiences.
Okay, so I should stick with it then.
It takes like an hour to play all the levels. Just play all the levels.
Okay, yeah. I got like when I first started, I went straight to the it's not the gotcha machine, but it's like the arcade machine where you pull down the little like
Oh yeah, it's kind of a gotcha machine, right? It's got the you pull the arm and it has like
it is
a
maybe it is a
clink.
gotcha machine,
Yeah.
but I didn't have any money, and I was like, oh no, is my controller broken? Right? Because like it
Okay.
doesn't let you pull it down, and there's not really great UI, and it's like literally if you just don't turn the right direction that they want you to turn. Let me say this about that game is
Oh,
that
it's missing the intro for sure.
yeah, it doesn't read very well. Like when
Hmm.
you get into the central hub, you expect it to be
Hmm.
hub world, but you actually can collect shit in that central area. There's like coins and stuff, and that threw me. I'm basically making excuses. I think
You are, but you're right. I agree with that. I think one of the weird things it does is that it actually wants. They threw a couple too many ideas at the wall for that one because I think it's also
hmm,
meant to you can like hit the PlayStation button and use cards to go to different worlds and like
oh,
you're meant to be able to like freely move between stuff. Yeah,
I,
it's
for,
like they went a little hard on it.
I forgot about the PS5 cards because they talked a little bit about it when PS5 first came out, and I noticed them when I hit the PS button when I'm playing games, but
And
I'm
then you're like,
like,
I'm gonna do nothing with these, which is what I do too.
unfortunately, yes. Yeah, I
Yeah,
actually was a little bit confused. Okay, it's like I think they do, but they do like director's commentary and stuff, right?
they do whatever they want, but
Okay,
like contextually, it's just very weird.
and it's up to the developer to add that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. It's going to
Yeah.
be one of these long abandoned features. I think they're not going to use it for anything.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
I do like I've used it as like shortcuts between levels. I'm excited for like maybe Tony Hawk's might get an upgrade where you can like jump levels real fast with that.
Oh,
It seems good for
nice.
changing activity
Right.
if you're in a game with activities of a variety.
Okay.
But like that's the best I can do. We'll
Right.
see. But yeah, do get to the rocket ship in Astros. It's the whole game is not long.
Okay.
There's not a lot there, frankly. It's
I'm
very
trying to
short.
think of what my next PS5 game will be. It might be Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Not straight to Yakuza 7.
um, maybe I don't know. I really like Kiryu. Like I could just maybe I should just like watch the cutscenes on YouTube or something.
That'll still take like yeah a week and a half to get through a couple games.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy, this dog looks great. We made a really cool dog in
Oh,
this
I'm
game.
switching to development view. Oh god.
I mean, Dean Pupney is really just star of the show.
Yes, exactly.
Did I put that in the commit log? Oh yeah, I totally did. Sorry,
Yes,
Dean.
Dean
You're
Pupney.
just.
Yep.
I'm happy to censor that from our Git commits if you'd prefer, but that's really funny.
Well, he's also on. He's also on his Twitch handle is Dean Putney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's no anonymity.
Yeah.
Anonymity
Sorry for doxing
then.
you, Dean. Mm.
No, but this dog is so great.
It's a good dog.
Until you can see inside of it. Oh man, what was it? I was oh yeah, I just like had the screenshot on my desktop and I was like, oh, okay.
It's something else.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, what should we do today though?
I don't know. I was gonna do work on the game, and then I started experimenting with a WebAssembly, not a version of the game per se, but I borrowed a lot of the ideas and started to bring it over a little bit.
That's right. You've got a whole Manchester WASM.
Yes.
This is really cool.
It is kind of runnable. I don't necessarily think we need to do it now, but
okay.
The general idea is that you have Rust code and you have JavaScript code, so it already sounds terrible, right? I guess to maybe as a precursor, the whole point of doing WebAssembly is that largely we're worried about the performance of JavaScript, and in particular, we can't make structured data in JavaScript without allocating to the heap, which is just slow. And we do it all the time. And we do it for vector operations, and there's just going to be tons of vector operations. And I'm just, especially with netplay and the amount of resimulation that we have to do, CPU computation, I think, is going to come at a very, very high premium for this game. So can we not allocate every time we want a vector? Was sort of the idea. And we spent some time, I think, talking a little bit about allocation, and I got nervous about it because I thought it would just clutter the JavaScript code. It would just make it look really terrible. Mm-hmm. So why use JavaScript if you're going to be doing that stuff? So why not use WebAssembly?
It makes sense to me, yeah.
So the model for WebAssembly is that it is kind of like a different language, but that browsers will support innately, or at least all the major browsers. And it has a JavaScript U8 array, basically, which is, and it's got a giant array, and that's the runtime memory of your WebAssembly code. And it is readable by JavaScript through the WebAssembly API.
I think that's right, because we can pass memory between the two via that structure, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's right. One of the interesting things about WebAssembly is that the code does not live in that memory structure. So you can't really do anything like self-modifying code or jitting things, right? You can't generate new runtime WebAssembly without... Well, you can, but you have to basically create new WebAssembly runtimes with that code, if that makes sense. So what we do is we just create a big WebAssembly file from the RS directory, and that gets imported into our JavaScript. If you go to source client main, it's kind of got this weird thing going on there. Yeah. So init and start are these functions that allow you to basically create the WebAssembly runtime. So the first thing that happens is your JavaScript program starts running, and you basically tell JavaScript, "Hey, I want to start running some WebAssembly. So here's the functions that are going to initialize it." Those come from the Rust build. So Rust has a tool chain called Wasampack, which is used. It's like Webpack. It's like a pun off of Webpack, and it's used to build Rust if you're targeting WebAssembly as opposed to targeting ARM64 or targeting x86 or something like that. You target WebAssembly. And part of what comes with that is some functions that allow you to basically load it into a browser context. So that's what we're looking at right now.
That's cool.
And then the WASM right there is the actual. It's basically a giant base64 encoded string that is the actual WASM code. So that's the Rust code converted into WebAssembly.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I noticed you started with the renderer.
I did. I'm kind of like crawling towards getting something working. I thought maybe RenderToy would be a good first thing to.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was in my head I was thinking of approaching it from the reverse direction, which is like our simulation goes into WebAssembly, but actually our TypeScript renderer seems pretty performant. And I feel like we have it's like constant time right now, right? Because we're just doing 1 per second. Or one per frame.
You are absolutely right. So that's an interesting point. Maybe that's a different tack I can take.
Yeah, because then we just have to pass like model location and like I don't know terrain out to the renderer.
Yeah,
once per frame.
The renderer does do some vector math, but it's not that much compared to the simulation. So I might be able to forego some of the hoops that I'm jumping through. Like the actual like render loop is in Rust, and because of all these Rustisms, it looks a little bit ugly.
Well, I guess I saw you opening up a canvas element, and I was like, oh shit, this looks like it might be a lot.
Yeah.
But also like, it already works, so like.
Yeah, it's not too bad so far. I think the worst parts of it are just like dealing. I mean, it's just anything in Rust. It's just fighting the borrow checker. But I think there's some promise. One of the things I really look forward to in Rust is that the math is actually easy to express. Can you go to my GitHub repository? So it's Jeff-O-Matic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you go into my repositories, go to the RT, which is the ray tracer.
Yeah.
And then if you go into source and if you go into like ray, or actually, sorry, go to sphere. If you scroll down and you looked at check hit, if you look at like line 27, those are vector operations. So you can do operator overloading in Rust. So you can do things.
It's a real language. Great.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like the only other. Well, I guess Ruby lets you do operator overloading, right? And
I think it does that because you name a method on the object, the operator. But yeah, effectively.
Right, because operators are just method calls, right? In Ruby, but C++ also basically has that paradigm.
That's great. Yeah.
So
can you add operators? Could you add like an actual dot operator? Or are you limited to like the sort of math operators, but you can do your own thing?
Unfortunately, I think you're limited to the operators that come with the language.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I assume that's why there is like a dot function instead of dropping like actual dot in there.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know how to type dot, so I think it's fair that like they stick to the character. Like sticking to ASCII is I think a reasonable requirement.
That's totally.
Cool. But I think considering what we had to go through, what was the last? We did something gnarly in TypeScript the other day. It was the spring. Remember the spring physics?
That was a little gnarly, and it would look really great here, wouldn't it?
It would look really good. Yeah.
That our camera controller? Oh yeah.
Yeah, that whole line 31 through 40 is
add, scale, and
got 3 different vec3 creates in there, 4 of them, and we know which of those can we get rid of? Can we do it in a way that we don't make a mistake? Like there's in isolated moments, there's an argument to be made that Rust is easier to read than TypeScript, right?
Well, it'd be very nice to write our math out in the form that we expect it to as well. like having to put if our comments were instead what the code looked like, I would sure be happy. Rust I find rarely clearer, but yeah, you got me here. That's a win.
Yeah. Like I'd say like 90% of the time Rust is like pretty easy to read. It's
Mm.
pretty like I think like what we're reading here, but with the math is like pretty self-explanatory.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other 10% of the time is like fucking inscrutable, and and really hard to understand and untangle.
Yeah, it's when it is the borrow checker that always just fucks me up.
Yeah, yeah,
I just put ampersands in my code until it works, or stars,
right,
whichever direction I gotta go, and that
right.
doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So I'm gonna continue plugging away and see. I think I really kind of want to get a feel for it. But if
This
you're
is
interested,
great.
I'd be
Yeah,
happy to kind of walk you through exactly what's going on line by line.
yeah, I would love to. And man, since you got the render in here, there's no reason. I can't come up with a reason to pass it back across the JavaScript bridge at this point.
Right.
Once we've already got it in here, like
I mean, we totally could.
our render is just like the most. It's like the most self-contained thing. So once you've got models and
Yeah, it's
you're doing
pretty.
GLTF, we're done, right?
Right, right.
Basically.
Um, yeah, I'd say in terms of like actually, I think the funniest thing about one of the funny things about Rust, and maybe I can limit our discussion to just this, is like
Hmm.
how you structure a project or a library in Rust, so that it knows about other files. Most languages will just use the file system, right? So if you just have files present in a project directory, you're like TypeScript will know about it, or JavaScript will know about it, and Python will know about it, and Ruby will know about it, right? You just like import or require from the file system.
Yep.
I don't. This is a little bit of galaxy brain with Rust, but basically, the top level of your project is either lib.rs or main.rs, depending on whether you're building a library or you're building an executable.
Okay.
And so that's convention, and the compiler knows about that. But then for it to know about other files, every
Mhm.
file is a module. So it's a little bit like Python that way. Did you ever do any Python?
Yeah. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So every
So
file is its
that's why
own
this is mod
namespace.
renderer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
sorry. That's including this module. I see.
yeah,
Oh.
so underneath the top level of a project, if you have a folder that represents module,
Mhm.
the sort of like the equivalent of an index.js is the mod.rs. So if you are basically saying like give me stuff from this module that's a directory, it's going to actually look in the file under that directory called mod.rs.
Hmm.
But it doesn't actually know about those files unless you explicitly declare the modules in the parent directories. So let me try and so the Rust compiler doesn't know about files unless you tell it about those files. And the
Mhm.
way that you tell about those files is you don't create like a single manifest somewhere. You just basically name the child modules in the parent. So if you go all the way up to lib, if I didn't have line number 1 there, it wouldn't know about that renderer subdirectory.
I see.
Yeah. So basically,
Okay.
what it does is like the Rust compiler, the way it works is it's like, okay, I know that at the top level I'm building a library, so I'm going to look for lib.rs, and that's the only file I know about. So it goes to lib.rs, and lib.rs just says, hey, there's a child module called renderer, and the Rust compiler will go, okay, well I can find that two different ways. One is that there's like a sibling file in the same directory called renderer.rs, or you made a subdirectory called renderer that has a mod.rs in it. And so I did the second, right? So if you go to mod.rs,
Mhm.
now Rust compiler knows about this, and then it says, oh, look at lines 1 and 2. There's module model and module shader. Well, there's two ways for me to look for this. One is that there's a subdirectory in this directory called model or shader with a file called mod.rs, or there is a sibling file in the same directory called model.rs or shader.rs.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
everything is a module, and that is both like branches and leaves of the tree
exactly.
are modules.
Yes,
Okay.
they're all just modules. So basically, every node in the file tree is a module. Um,
That is probably exceptionally handy for doing tree shaking and code pruning and all that stuff to actually like, I could include a bunch of stuff here and make a very targeted binary out of that. That's kind of cool. Or if I was including an external library, I could include only the parts I use.
Yeah, it's actually Rust has one of those like very modern, hyper aggressive lint things where it will tell you if a function is never called, and that includes functions that are called by other functions that haven't been called. Right. So if you have function A, which calls function B, but function A never gets called, and the only thing that calls function B is function A, in VS Code, you'll see a warning about function B saying that nothing ever calls it, and you're like, well, wait a minute, function A calls it, but then the Rust compiler's like, aha, but nothing calls function A, right? It'll still compile. It just gives you warnings, and it's annoying.
So I bet it's nice that it gives you warnings though, and that means that it can know how to do better when it actually like makes it still binary. So
yeah,
sick. Dude, this is really cool. What is the output of this right now? Is it
it's a triangle.
Just triangle?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. But it's a triangle in the browser with Rust code.
It's a triangle in the browser with Rust code. Yeah. And eventually, I'll try to get the game going. One interesting question is whether we need the server side to continue to be JavaScript if we can run whatever we want on the server side, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would love to run the same simulation, and that sure sounds like it's going to be Rust to me if that's the path we go.
Right. And then at that point, how we actually express the server communication side of things, we could write the WebSocket server in Rust or in JavaScript. It's probably easier in JavaScript just because.
Yeah, we can't break out of like the browser sandbox. We don't get anything better than WebSockets in this, do we? We can't like actually like go down to UDP or something.
No.
That makes sense.
is like.
It's still browser.
You have like relatively equivalent capabilities to like JavaScript browser, just regular browser code that's written in JavaScript. But you don't have anything more than that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. It would be, imagine a browser willing to break the sandbox for random assembly code. Does seem pretty out there.
It would be bad. Yeah, I don't think their goal isn't to expose more APIs. Their goal is to allow you to basically do the kinds of things that we're doing right now. Like if JavaScript, the language, isn't doing it for you for whatever particular reason, you have an option to not do that. And it's actually really friggin' awesome that you can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, sweet. I am down to do some streams on Rust.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This maybe isn't ready quite yet, but like soon.
Yeah. I mean. It kind of depends. Like I like if you, I'll leave this up to you.
I'm gonna clone this. Yeah.
If you want to jump into it, we can jump into it, or we can continue working on Dean Pupney. It's kind of hard to know where the game goes from here, right? It's kind of done.
Yeah, we accidentally finished it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this dog needs to be able to pee on trees. Who knows?
Yeah.
Nope. Not Manchester. Manchester wasn't. By the way, does my visual bell?
It doesn't flash. No. I got a little bit. I saw a little bit of a flicker at the in the title bar.
Okay, it's a little there.
I don't hear anything. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, wait,
ESK says it's Untitled Dog Game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It is true. Manchester has always just been a code name. It's not the real name of the game. So. It could just be called Untitled Dog Game.
It could very well be Untitled Dog Game. I can't believe they got away with Untitled Goose Game as the real name. All right. Well, it looks like this computer that was set up for Rust is not happy, and I should sort that out before we do a Rust stream.
All right. No problem.
Yeah. What do we do with this pup? I mean, this animation sure is jank. But you made a pretty good case that, in fact, we may not need to do actual rigging last time.
Yeah.
We could certainly give this pupper some stronger armaments.
I'd say whatever we do for the dog tonight, let's make sure we can translate it for the eventual tank that we were both supposed to design and didn't.
Yeah, how far have you got on that? A little bit. A
I
little bit.
a little bit. I made like a box with another box on top of it with a turret box coming out of that.
Oh hell yeah.
So, and that was before I watched the low poly video.
Oh
So
sweet, 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 sweet.
yeah,
I've been watching a bunch of videos and they're all about everyone is like incredibly good with their shortcuts and use Blender as if it's like some arcane,
like it's
sculpting
VI or
tool.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's intimidating and also really cool, but
right.
hard to keep track.
I actually slightly feel the way I feel when I sit down at an instrument that I don't know how to play.
Mm.
Um, which is that intellectually I kind of have an idea of what I want to have happen, right? Where it's like, let me give you an example of something that I would like to be able to do uh, in Blender. Let's say you have some complex set of polygons, just these verts that you've kind of stitched together, and let's even say that they're the same object. I want to pick a point on one of the faces of the object and say, move the entire object such that that point is at world origin. That's a
Ooh.
pretty complicated. That's actually, I think, you can imagine the practicality of doing that kind of thing. Let's say you model something and you realize it's off center relative to the world origin, and it's like, okay, I want to like move it around and like like extrude aside and then make it unbalanced, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think I extruded a point.
Yeah, if you hit 3, I think it's face selection.
Oh, I'm emulating the numpad in my Blender right now. It's a disaster.
Oh, okay, yeah,
But yeah, that sucker.
yeah. And let's say it's like, oh shit, this is off-centered. I want to center it around the origin by picking an arbitrary registration point and say that's the origin of my object, and I want to align that object to the world origin. It's that kind of thing. Is like I know what I wanted. I know what I wanted to do, but it
Like
seems
I want
like
to make
it's
this
hard.
the center. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
And then there's also like I want to like all these kinds of things where it's like I want to make sure that what I'm doing is symmetric. And that seems hard. And I also kind of wish that like I'm sure there's snapping tools where I can just say like, look, just snap to every tenth of a grid, every
Oh.
tenth of a grid square, because I don't need like I don't need the full power of floating point numbers here. I just need notches. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Did you watch that low poly video where the guy just made trees by extruding stuff?
I don't think I saw that one. Was that the long one I sent you?
Yeah, yeah.
I
With the
I
Scottish
immediately
guy.
went like in a different direction because I started watching that. I was like, this is hard.
Yeah. But you're kind of doing
I
what he was doing. You can imagine making a tree the way
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's like,
You can kind of rotate stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I saw part of that one where he like made a table and then shrank the table top and like extruded it into a leg or something. I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of thinking about shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really cool though. I mean, this abstract building is great. Can I delete some? How do I delete? Nope.
X.
Oh, yeah, delete vertices. Oops. Nope. X edges? Nope. Faces. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, here you go. Here's our command center.
It's
Done.
beautiful. Yeah.
Dunzo. It is beautiful. It's very brutalist.
Yeah. So you're doing some kind of numpad emulation?
Oh yeah, sorry. I have 1, 3, and 7 snapped to the axes,
Oh, okay.
and then which I guess I found it really handy to be able to get into those views fast, and it was nice to have a shortcut for that.
Okay. And okay. Yeah.
Because part of being able to like do symmetrical stuff is being able to like look at it straight on and know what's going on.
Yeah. I guess probably the fact that we don't have 104 key keyboards is a disadvantage.
Yeah, it's emulate numpad turns the numbers into that, so useful for laptops. It sure is. Maybe it's time to upgrade our keycrons.
I think I'm done buying stuff for the year.
Yeah, it's March.
You're right.
It's still March. It's March 365th.
Yeah, I still need to go. I still need food.
Yeah, that's a real problem right there.
Yeah. What is their 104? Do they have 104 key like K4
Oh,
or K1? Did the K1 like?
is this? Oh yeah, wait. None of these have numpads. Wait a hot
I
minute.
think
Yeah,
they have a numpad version of
there
K1.
we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty badass. Oh, you know what? I do. I have a wired. I think I have two wired numpad keyboards actually. Would you like one?
It depends on what they are.
I think one's a DOS keyboard and one's the weird gaming keyboard that my PC came with.
Oh.
Neither is great, but they do have numpads.
I think I'm so stuck to Mac style keyboards now that I need something that has like kind of like a native Mac layout.
That's fair.
Yeah. They do have the 104 key thin Magic keyboards, don't they? They're old, but
Oh yeah. Oh, they're wireless now. You can get a wireless numpad version.
no kidding.
Sucker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That is a spicy meatball. They're charging 150
They'll charge you whatever they feel like,
and we'll pay it. I know.
and we'll pay it. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yep.
It turns out that the latency on Magic keyboards is super low. I don't know
They're
why.
really- I mean, every time Apple does a Bluetooth, they kind of say fuck it and write their own spec, and I think they did it for that as well.
Right.
Because these are the ones that you can't repair, and they only pair via direct USB connection. So I think they skip some steps.
Yeah. I think even if they're plugged in directly, the latency is faster than like a regular USB for some reason. It's the keyboard. The keyboard
that's really
itself.
interesting.
The keyboard itself is faster, I think.
I would absolutely believe that.
Yeah.
These are still the best keyboards. It's shocking.
Are you using one right now?
I am using one right this instant.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's actually better than my Keychron. But I like my Keychron.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I should try. I should just like pick up my own Magic keyboard. It's good to have one around, right?
You never know when you might need one.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
Keychron
it's
feels
just-
good, but like I get phantom key presses sometimes.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. No, you
Let's-
get it on yours too, huh?
Yeah.
It's like if you're
Honestly,
gently
switches,
touching a key and you don't actuate it completely, it'll.
They are far too sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been to the therapist. They've worked on their failings, and that keyboard tells you if you fit a key, like if you brush it extremely lightly, it's
Right.
terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, this dog is armed, but I don't think this dog is armed enough.
Yeah.
I really want to do rigging, but I'm not 100% confident in that yet, and I think we should approach it from the Blender side as well.
Okay.
Like I kind of want to learn how to rig my model before I sort of try to get our game to respect it. Maybe.
Yeah. So
we can also fix the rubber banding for zoomed in.
oh. What would be the fix for that? I wonder.
I guess
It just
the
need to be
cam-
faster if you're zoomed in more, right? You'd have to scale the both constants.
Yep. Ooh. The rubber banding is so funny.
I don't know. I don't know how compatible zoom in and dash are. Like probably one of those two things has to go. I don't actually even know how useful the zoom in view is. It just looks cool, right?
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, this is great.
It's also the case that dash does not really work very well with our current networking paradigm. It just straight up is a bad.
Oh yeah, because
idea.
you're dashing sort of in advance of you're done dashing by the time the other player is like still predicting, so you can't actually predict the dash.
That's
at all.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we could do input delay, which is what we don't do. There's that. I sent you that blog post that is apparently about Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
And it was very ambitious. They like somebody like rolled out their like really expert design Doesn't look like your average WordPress site, right? And I think it has 2 articles, one from 2017 and one from 2019, which is too bad.
The sucker. This was good.
Yeah, it is Killer Instinct Infinite, right? The complete Killer Instinct guide. I guess they have a bunch of other stuff, right? They've got all these other things in there.
Yeah.
But this thing, Fightin' Words, which is like their tech blog, it has 2 entries. and this one was 2019. October, granted. The innocent time, months before the pandemic, yeah.
Standing on the precipice.
It's actually a very nicely designed site. And they talk... They break out the whole... I actually kind of wish I had read this before I saw anything about it. But they basically say like the way that fighting games work is that you do deterministic simulation. And the first thing that you do is you just like delay your own input by a few frames. Everyone settled on 3 frames on fighting games for some reason. Everybody does 3 frames. And the idea behind that is that when you hit a key... you can send your input to your buddy, and if that takes fewer than 3 frames, then your input's essentially simulating at the same time as... your input is simulating roughly at the same time on both computers, even though it originated from one computer, right?
That makes sense. So I feel like sort of our round trip might be 6 or 7 right now, but that's because we're going to the server and then back to a player, versus like if we had sort of a more direct connection, like actually we maybe could get that back and forth in that time.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, in a way that feels pretty good. Which I assume is just UDP and like being able to directly talk to the opposing console.
I wonder if the other consoles are going direct. Because it's hard to talk directly to another computer on the internet, right? If you have 2 people behind NAT, and you don't have a server mediating that, I guess WebRTC is exactly about that. WebRTC is basically saying like, it's like the whole thing about WebRTC is not really. It's mostly about trying to do establishing peer-to-peer connections, and the rest is just kind of details. But like trying to get through 2 people behind NAT, trying to connect 2 people behind NAT is a complicated problem. Yeah. But yeah, maybe they are just talking directly to each other, and that's why it can be fast.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder what would it take for us to encode our own input delay? Because this player input system, we sort of throw a message into our queue. Well, actually, we throw a message to our queue with a frame number, and we could just put +3 on here, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually thought about this a little bit before. I didn't get too deep into it. So first of all, are you down to explore this particular subject a little bit right now?
Yeah, especially because like I do feel like the last time we did multiplayer, it felt a little off.
Okay. So I think directly adding it to the input delay there is likely not going to get the outcome that you want.
Okay.
It might actually.
As I say, because like the nice thing is, since the message gets in-queued into the client message buffer, we actually just won't pick it up for 2 frames, but it's hanging out there.
So my question is, do you remember when the server sends the messages for that frame?
When the server sends messages for that frame?
I think the server only sends the messages for a particular frame after it simulates that frame, right?
I was going to say, I think we're not going to send the server the message for the frame until we get to that frame.
I think we send it right away. Go to send client message.
Okay.
You can just look at the definition of line 64, I think.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we send it immediately. So
okay, great.
But what we also want to have happen is we want to have the server also relay it to the other client immediately, or relay it to other clients immediately, and I don't think it does that.
Gotcha. It right. Okay. Because well, is that if we're 3 frames ahead, I'm assuming that it'll get to this. That's interesting. I feel like it'll relay it in time. Basically, we're slowing down ourselves for the same experience for other players. Like we'll sort of be bringing everything closer, but we could send these as soon as we get them too. Like the server doesn't need to hold them.
Yeah, I mean the server holds it for itself, right? Because the server's running the simulation currently for no reason at all,
Fair,
which is hilarious.
Yeah, that actually might be all that is. So that's with 0, and if I go up to 4-frame delay,
you start to feel a little bit.
Just a little though.
Yeah, if you set it to 10, you'll definitely feel it, right?
Oh, absolutely. But like I can feel it at 4, but it ain't bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 is chunky.
Okay. But 3
I would not like to play with that.
3 tends to be the one that like people settle on.
It's near instantaneous because like what is 3 times
16 point?
Yeah, like
it's 1/20th of a second, right?
I mean, my golden rule for UI stuff is that 100 is the magic number for like a human will notice it very distinctly.
What is the name of that limit? There's like a name. They mentioned it in Halt and Catch Fire, I remember.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's a Nielsen thing. I don't know. I got it from this.
Okay, yeah.
I do not know if there's a better name. But anyway, yeah, 6 frames would definitely be extremely obvious. 3 seems like kind of just the sweet spot. Yeah, 6 doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I guess motion is also delayed. Weird. Ever so slightly.
You mean the mouse cursor? Yeah, everything.
Just a little bit, yeah, but 3 frames is still just in that sweet spot.
Okay.
Okay, let's look at. We want to go over to the server. Is it server sim where we send them back? Messages.
Yeah, so it's line 224. We iterate over every client, and we tell them this is what happened for this frame.
Gotcha.
I don't necessarily think that we had any plan of telling the server to do any kind of filtering on inputs. So I think just preemptively sending stuff, having the server preemptively relay the inputs as it receives them is fine. Maybe with the extra wrinkle that it should probably deduplicate, saying that like if I already got frame 5 from client 1, I'm not going to relay it again, right?
Yeah. Local message history.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're always looking for just this frame. So actually, totally okay. Yeah. So I guess it sort of makes simulate is one thing, but actually setting these messages we should just immediately deliver them to other clients when we receive them.
Yeah, we could
instead of doing it in this loop.
Yeah, exactly. So the server receives those in an event handler, I want to say. Or actually, we have a connection abstraction, right? There's some
this sucker, right? Yeah, we consume the messages. Yeah, this is it. And then we insert into the frame, or we insert into our, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if, to make it even faster, the client connection needs to be an event emitter, so that rather than running this during the update, so we're talking about the rebroadcast, right? Maybe the rebroadcast needs to happen as soon as the server receives the message. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because we're just sending WebSocket messages, so like we can write as many as we want, as often as we want.
Right, and it shouldn't block. Hopefully, it should be running on a different thread, ideally.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then we have to send it to each client. So I'm gonna let the simulation be the simulation for a minute.
Okay.
This client connection. And here's our WebSocket connection. Okay, so consume. It's not received. Oh, here is our event listener, in fact. Okay. Yeah, we actually could just, we can maybe inject an event listener from the server here if we wanted to.
Yes.
Because we don't know about the other client connections. We don't know about other client connections in this connection.
Right. I wonder if the paradigm here is that I think maybe we do what you just said. I had this. I was like trying to get one step ahead and refactor the client connection away completely, because if there's an event listener that the server sim installs onto the client connection, and then the client connection itself puts an event listener on the socket, why doesn't the server sim just talk to the socket directly at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why have multiple layers? This client connection class is like super lightweight, right? And I guess we have it. I guess we have it because we can do tests. So maybe that's why we have it.
Is it that, or is that we're trying to? I guess the client is actually sending its player number in the message, huh? So.
Yeah, well, I made the client connection
an
interface for some reason, and I thought maybe I was going to do dependency injection for unit tests or something like that. I'm not sure if anything else implements iClient connection except for that class.
I think
below.
so. I think it's right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
But in the interest of not getting rid of classes because it's just confusing, we could just make the client connection an event emitter as well, or just add a callback to the constructor, right?
Yep, that makes sense. Receive. Oh, yeah. I guess this will take. And then we hand it to the server and deliver it immediately. And I guess this actually takes a
client message.
Message that is a client message. Yeah. Oh, that's missing a paren. Cool. Okay. And then server sim. So wherever I'm.
I think you needed this dot.
Here?
Oh, never mind.
Oh,
wow,
yeah. It's a closure over this. Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, it's there could be many reasons not to do this, but yeah. Yeah. Where are we creating these? Oh, something must be calling connect client.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Fuck. That's not what I want. That's not where I want this to be at all.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so rather than futz with this, maybe what we should just do is let's send the messages preemptively at the first update that we can. So we're mitigating the performance benefit a little bit, but maybe not by that much. It's like less than one frame.
I guess the thing I liked about replaying them immediately is that we don't have to keep track of state.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if we're replaying it on the first update, we have to know what we've sent back, which is like medium gnarly because we have to know what for each client's been sent back as well, right? Like what frame we're up to. It's not the worst. We could actually just keep that in variables on the client connection. Then the class is still useful.
Yeah, we'd have to I guess another way of doing this is, I don't like it, but at the top of every update frame in the server, we consume all the messages into an inbox. Oh wait, we just do this here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because we're putting them in by frame, or we're sort of sorting them by frame. But we can also just say, here's the incoming messages. Here's what we're immediately sending out.
Yeah, we're actually hitting every message every single time. So we could just send a broadcast inside the inner loop there, right? Or we can bundle them together if we wanted to do that as well.
Oh yeah, I was gonna do them one at a time, but that's
one at a time is fine. If we bundle them, we have to figure out how to deserialize the bundle on the client side. So
that's a great point. I guess we're gonna loop through clients inside of clients. This is actually for receiver.
Yep.
If client is receiver, continue.
Yeah.
And then client dot, where's my sucker? I see a thing that we did. Huh. This is what we had before. That's a little annoying.
Are you talking about the metrics?
Well, the metrics, and are we, I guess, is the client expecting a single set of frame messages per frame? Was it counting on the server to sort of coalesce?
Okay, yeah, so we need to change the protocol, right?
Yeah, yep. Oh, you know what we do, but also server message type.
It could just be foreign input message type. We'll just make a different message.
I was gonna say we could just send client messages back too, because if frame updates, there's no reason we couldn't just send client messages back over the wire, right?
There's no reason. We just have to make the client connection or the client simulation expect those types of messages.
Yeah, totally. Well, I was gonna say this one maybe is actually still valuable at the end of the update.
Yeah, it just probably wouldn't.
That's our synchronization.
Probably wouldn't have the individual inputs anymore, right? Because we would expect them to get sent already. Yeah.
Yeah. So this turns into that.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel much better about that.
I think that needs to be a
loop as well. Yeah.
Gosh, that's so cool. I need to figure out how to do this Alfred thing.
Man, yeah.
I bought Alfred, then I promptly forgot about this thing. It's complaining about your types right now, but you're good.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Because the types are all wrong. Yeah, let's lose that. And then server message type. I'm curious, can this extend?
I would caution you to avoid this particular line of thinking.
Okay, great.
I think we should wrap the client messages just in an envelope. That's
okay.
Yeah.
That seems super reasonable.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we'll just export. Just do the whole rigmarole. Server remote client message equals. And
would it be
then
cool if we called
message is.
Would it be cool if we called the enum remote client message as well?
Remote, yeah, totally. Oh, wait. You're learning Alfred. I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then this server message also accepts that. Cool. So then let's see. This is good. This, there we go. That needs to be the envelope. And message.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely not arcane. Probably because we actually need to do something with this, like put it into our own queue. Let's see. Where is frame update being used? Yeah, okay. Server frame updates push. Oh boy. Actually, okay, wow, this thing was really dependent on the concept of a set of frame messages. This is better, right? We don't actually need to hold on to messages this long. Or rather, we don't need to coalesce them because it'll be way nicer if we receive them as early as possible.
Right. I think
I feel good about this still.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think the clients just need to hang on to that in their own. They need to keep track of their own list. What happens is the clients will, before when they got the list of input messages for that frame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's a problem. What? Let's say you send a piece of input to the client. Sorry, you send your client one, and you send a key press to the server, but the server never gets it. You need a way of knowing that the server never got it, because the
authoritative frame was coming back with that.
When you roll back, you need to resim.
Right. Dang. Okay. What else can we do?
I mean, it doesn't invalidate the idea. It's just that we need to be able to account for that case, right?
Yeah. It makes me wonder if the server sim sending. It's tough because I guess we treat messages received as simulation until they show up in the server frame, and then they become, or their prediction until they show up here, and then they are cataloged as real estate. How? Huh.
I think one thing we can do is if we complicate the yeah, this is tricky because
this is these are still necessary. Yeah.
You might not have gotten. Might not have gotten something from the server either, right? I mean, technically, it's not really possible given the TCP and the ordering of the stream. You should always have gotten everything. But it's nice if we can say, if the server can basically say, these are all the messages that happen on the frame, almost in like a transactional nature. Like here's the bill at the end of the meal kind of thing. So it's almost as if these remote client messages are almost our technique for doing. They're almost predictive. They're almost suggestive of what other clients should be displaying, but they shouldn't be authoritative, right?
They can sort of go if we put them in our prediction buffer. if we put them somewhere where they were just in prediction land for the game, it would actually work really well.
Exactly.
And that is totally possible, actually. That's just local message history, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can call it like prediction messages rather than local message history, because we're now also including stuff that the server has relayed to us. Is that the idea? It's a bit of a semantic change.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but local message history is nothing but what we use to play forward frames past where the server is. So that seems good, because then we just drop them too once we go past there.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel really good about that. I think the only thing we'll have to make sure of is that we're dropping. I was gonna say, where do we do the discard until? Yeah, okay. As long as it isn't greater than or equal to, we're good. Because we want to make sure we don't include like prediction and server state on the same frame.
Yeah. Can you scroll down just a little bit? Yeah. Where do we simulate for the current frame?
So this is.
I think it's actually outside of this function. This is sync server state, right?
This is sync server state. So wait, we get server frame updates. I believe it is this. This is the update that we have to handle from the server. And we do it for as many frames as we need to if the server is sending like multiple at a time.
Yeah.
So this is simulate, and then this is prediction.
When I say the current frame, I mean the current local frame. So basically one past. I think it's actually where do we call sync server state?
Okay, great question. Nope.
Yeah, so that line 361.
Oh, I see. This is right. We've synced with the server. We've predicted, and this is the absolute current one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is actually totally fine with our plan. I was just looking for line 364 specifically. Line 364 looks at the local message history. I was wondering if it used some other array of messages, and if it did, we need to be careful to account for messages that have been relayed to us from the server. But if the local message history will contain relayed messages, then we're fine, right?
Totally okay. Yeah. I guess, and then the same goes for repredicting, where we actually do the same thing. Okay, cool. Right. So then, so local message history just isn't.
This is really cool because there's another related issue that we don't do right now, which was prediction for foreign clients. But this gives us a framework to do it.
Exactly, yeah, because
all you do is like you essentially just the way that we do input right now doesn't really allow for this, but you basically say the input from that client was the same exact thing that it was before in the last frame, which is to say we need to go down a lower level than what we're currently sending to say like basically these buttons continue to be pressed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Let's not deal with that now. Let's not two separate ideas.
Local message history, predicted message history, or like you said a better name for this. What was it?
I wish I can. I don't think I said a better name.
Okay.
Predicted message history, uncommitted message history.
Client message buffer. Yeah, I like uncommitted message history.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or
and then...
uncommitted client messages or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this uncommitted client push, and then it's going to be message. Well, that was easy.
And then so quick question, is there anything that assumes that this is sorted in order?
I don't, in terms of by frame or by client? Because we at least pick, we're filtering to get the frame that we're simulating.
Yeah, but... Can we do a find all references and just make sure that we're not assuming, like what I want to, the pattern that I'm in particular worried about is if we do something like we iterate until we hit a particular frame and then we stop, which assumes a monotonically increasing frame number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a hard problem to solve. We just have to sort the history as soon as we get that message, right? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, discard until. Yeah. That's exactly the thing I was worried about.
Oh, wait. Oh, that's really annoying. Yep. Okay.
So
this should also, but this could just be a filter.
it's
right?
it's just faster to discard until.
Yeah.
But we filter so much that
It's like, yeah, I think it's fine.
okay. So should we just convert it to a filter then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cred. Yeah. Good memory. I do see why this would be so much faster. And that's the filter?
I think it might be the inverse, because it stops when that predicate was true. So we actually want if the
but we want to filter. We want to return items that match this. So only future.
Yeah. So if just looking at the predicate, anything that's older than the current committed frame, we should discard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. Filter is to keep. Filter is not to reject.
Yeah. Discard until is the same predicate truthiness.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, and we actually have input delay. Do you want to hop on?
Yeah, I do.
What is what's the variable for number of clients? Player count. All right, hang on. Let me ngrok.
I have to remember their flags every single time for some reason. I think it's hyphen
Come on, hyphen host.
Hyphen subdomain equals.
Okay,
brilliant.
Oh, wait. Let me turn off. We're unpaid. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They don't punish us on the paid plan.
I am getting a ton of waiting for server.
Yo, yeah, same. Also, the drawing on this thing is bazonkers.
I'm gonna turn off my debug draw just so I don't get too much flicker.
Oh, same.
My monitor keeps crapping out. I actually had this. Boy, it's really fun driving the dog. I had this issue with the monitor kind of flickering in and out when I first got this computer, and now it's come back.
Oh, that's really annoying.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Might be the cable. I don't know.
So, I don't know. Maybe it's off the top of my head. This feels like we made it slower. Client buffer size. This should be like 20.
Okay. I needed to think through that. I know what you're getting at, and that was actually the first thing that I thought of. But oh, look at that!
And so there's another place where we do this too.
Maximum frames ahead of server, something like that, right?
Yeah, max.
That's a server side, a client side thing.
Mm-hmm. Frames ahead. There we go.
Oh, this is the metric. What we want...
Max predicted frames.
Max predicted frames, yeah.
I think this should also be...
Yeah.
20. It's weird. It's weird that... here, let's see if this is any better.
It's a little better for me.
Yep, same.
My update FPS is... It looks like I'm 40 some FPS right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably because I'm predicting so much.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, that's the trade-off for this, huh? Let me go to 12. And actually, let me make this the same number for both of these.
I'm trying to think if those two numbers should be the same or if they could be potentially different.
Oh, second save. Sorry. I guess to this point they have been the same, so it's sort of like,
yeah,
this feels closer at least.
For me, I'm like 6 or 7 frames per second faster. Getting a lot of waiting for server 2. I think there's a separate problem that we have not thought through.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be waiting for server and be slow at the same time.
That's weird. I'm confused by this. Yeah.
Client buffer size is basically how long the server will continue to wait for input before simulating. Is that right?
I think. I'm looking at my own.
What's your FPS right now?
My FPS is 55.
Okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try going in from Chrome.
Okay, yeah, I'm also in Chrome. I'm getting the flickering waiting for server as well.
I think for this to 100% work correctly, we need to time dilate one of the clients, which is always really confusing. We implemented some janky version of that a while ago, but it wasn't complete enough to be keepable.
Right.
Let me.
It's weird, but I have no input control right now.
Oh, I haven't joined, but it shouldn't even be rendering.
Okay. Okay, now you can join.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so that's smoother. I think this is because I'm using a faster browser. It's smoother for you too, right?
It is, but I see the jank. But like, this approach is playable. I wonder if it's easier to hit each other now.
And what does the dash look like? If I'm dashing, am I just teleporting?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the input delay didn't help that problem. The dash is too fast.
The dash is too fast. What if let's go to our player input. Where do we do dashing? Oh, fuck! It's just a modifier. That's right. Yeah, I was thinking dash should actually show up later. Maybe we can handle that in the tank mover as well.
Well, we can add a visual effect for the dash, so at least even if you teleport, you can see it. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little like quad that dies over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I assume I'm just popping around on your screen when I do this.
Yeah,
that does look weird.
Yeah. And this is basically, we started talking about the Killer Instinct article, and I didn't actually even mention why it was interesting. We just started writing code, which is great. I love it. This is so interesting. I'm getting way more debug draw than I would have expected. If I look at the background.
I was seeing that as well. Yeah, like
I guess basically once per frame we get lingering shadow. We get like a lingering shadow of like essentially where. Like
is that the number of predictions? Is that's what's happening? Is
exactly like the more prediction that we see, the longer that tail is going to be.
Yep. Which is pretty cool, but also a little weird.
So what they were saying is that like there's actually some characters in like Street Fighter that move so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an air dash in Street Fighter, right? I think like Chun-Li has an air dash.
I believe that.
That the exact same thing ends up happening.
Oh, interesting. Where it just looks like you teleport.
Yeah.
Air dash teleport.
Over net play, it looks like a teleport.
That's really, really annoying.
And the Killer Instinct article mentions that exact same problem. So
I'm just finding people angry about air dash. Great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it basically makes it harder for the local player, right? If the other player's teleporting. Actually, I'm watching it on Zoom, and my dash looked pretty good that one time. That looked okay.
That looks okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's possibly when I'm moving around too. Well, do some up and down dashing.
Okay, hang on 1 second. My monitor crapped out right as you asked for it.
I catch the tail end of your motion, which is like just enough to feel the dash.
I mean, if there was a visual artifact,
yeah, it would probably.
The thing about fighting games is that you actually have pretty lengthy animations for most motions, right? You have like the wind up for a punch, and that's what essentially that's how they can kind of cheat it a little bit. I do wish we could do peer-to-peer network communication. That would be really cool.
Yeah, but I guess what you're saying at the wind up is that like by the time, like if a punch is 20 frames, by the time you know that someone has thrown a punch, you do know exactly where it's going to land, right? Like the hit is perfect, which I guess is basically what we have here with our bullets and motion and stuff. Like we do know, well, motion harder, but bullets at least we know, like once they're in the world, if you run into it, you have run into it.
Yeah. So here is the trade-off matrix that is starting to kind of come into my mind. If we want dash and we want to be in the browser, either we implement WebRTC, which we could do.
It sounds extremely gnarly, but we could.
Or the technical solutions to the jumping around is either you do WebRTC and just like cut the delay in half, because you don't have the server in the middle for that one predicted input. You don't have the server sitting in the middle on you, right? So you cut down the network latency by half, all other things being equal. Or we completely revamp our networking assumptions where we no longer do deterministic. We basically kind of just like play the other player at like wherever they currently are in our local simulation. We just trigger the dash. And if they're not drawing where they actually are according to the server, we just rubber band them towards that gradually, right? So essentially, it's a little bit like our camera. You know, our camera's on a spring and constantly lagging the player. You can imagine that like the rendering of a remote player on your local client is actually just kind of like halfway in between where it's simulating on your side, predicted on your side, and where the server is. So it's going to look weird, but I think that's the way FPSs work, right? FPSs don't do deterministic. Well, I don't know. Overwatch did deterministic simulation. But I'm actually...
Yeah.
I know a lot less about that alternative, but I think that there's... You know how like we with Steven, we talked a lot about like how like you don't have to do deterministic simulation, right?
Is it non-deterministic only in that there are certain frames that sort of aren't shown correctly? Like, or it's non-deterministic in the sense that my client will see your player sort of in the wrong place.
It's not deterministic in the sense that like the outcomes of the game, the server tells you directly rather than you computing the outcomes.
And even if we eventually sort of like sync them up again, we've sort of like broken the barrier at that point.
It's just like ultimately all of this is just about how it looks, because like I think it's a basic guarantee that you want kills to be kills on everybody's machine, and you want wins of the match to be wins on everybody. Like you want those to agree. Those are like those are table stakes regardless of how you implement it, right? Yeah. But how that ends up looking is really kind of like up to you, right? And so the reason why we did deterministic simulation is so that we didn't have to send a bunch of state over the wire and then figure out how to draw that state. Because I think the assumption there is that like the way that we would draw that state is we would take the state of the entities as they were simulated locally, take the state that is on the server, and blend them somehow. And that blending seemed like a really expensive operation in JavaScript, right? But it might be doable in JavaScript, and it also might be doable in Rust, right?
I think it's going to be much more durable in Rust. Yeah,
I agree with that. Because with Rust, you can do pretty easy state snapshots where you're not like you're just doing like a linear mem copy as opposed to like doing a deep clone. Remember we were doing like Lodash deep clones and it was like 90% of our like profile.
Yep.
So being able to do like kind of like snapshots and interpolations between snapshots becomes like easier if we're using a different language. But I think we could revisit that analysis. But I think at the time we were like, well, because JavaScript is not good at that, let's do deterministic simulation. So the trade-offs are kind of like deterministic simulation with rollback, the way that we're doing it right now, is good, but it becomes hard if you have a lot of sudden moves. And we just added a sudden move. I think that's basically the trade-off that I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
Yeah. How badly do you want it? How like does the dash need to be this fast? A, and B, how badly do we need a dash in general?
Yeah. Those are both really good questions.
Yeah. So sudden motions are gonna happen. They're gonna like if we have a gun that like shoots immediately.
Right. I feel like we certainly could limit our gameplay space by that, but also I don't want to.
Okay. Yeah.
I saw a tank game on Steam today.
Okay.
And it's sort of I was like, oh, how familiar, and I was like, this looks really slow.
Yeah, this looks very, very familiar. I'm assuming it's multiplayer. Chill and play.
Yeah.
What a curious aesthetic. I mean, I'm into it. I'm glad that they were able to do that.
I've seen a couple of sort of like drawn on paper aesthetics. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of.
This does not look very fun though, right?
It doesn't look fun. I saw this and I was like, this game looks extremely slow and ponderous and maybe a little plotting. I do like that the coffee stains slowed the player down. That was maybe.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I'm very, very here for that.
It also looks super physicsy, which I'm not into at all. Doesn't it? It looks slidey.
Yeah, I wonder if that's meant to be a slick of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, if the tank has any kind of like rotational inertia or acceleration, where you kind of like turn slowly at first and then you speed up, and then when you let go of the input, you kind of continue to turn. That sounds like a nightmare to me. Yeah, I think the only game that's ever like made that snappy was like Super Mario Brothers, right? Super Mario Brothers has like really awesome like acceleration and slowdown.
Oh yeah, but that's perfect, and you only get to do that the once.
Yeah.
Or you have to be Miyamoto.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I saw this and I was like, I want our game to be faster than this.
I want it to be faster, more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a dog. It's already.
So I think we're hemmed in by the web platform a little bit, right? Because the web platform doesn't let us do peer-to-peer UDP.
Yep.
Except through Webrtc. I'm not even. I think Webrtc is UDP, right? It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed delivery. It's not strictly ordered, right?
I think that's right. I don't think it explicitly calls itself UDP, but yes. Order.
Because I mean, if you implement web streaming through the browser, you're not like
I just remember like digging into this, and it is UDP, I guess. This article is clearer, but I just remember this interface looking terrible.
Well, like all of it is like setting up the connection, right? All of it is like
Yeah.
trying to get around the net, and
Yeah.
you need like a server that like stun and turn are all just about like there's like
I'm really glad that they did
yeah,
that.
Mozilla people know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot about like making sure that you train everybody's router so that like because like NAT on your router is like because like when you send data from the server back to the client on like the level of your router remembers that like you have Dom's computer and Dom's spouse's computer behind your router, right, at your house, and you're both making outbound requests through port 80, right? But you're hitting the foreign service port 80, but there's also a request port. Like if you look at an HTTP request, there's like the incoming IP address, and there's also the incoming port that you're supposed to respond back on. And that port is different. Like if you behind your router go to like google.com, and then your spouse does the same thing.
Right. Those responses never get crossed.
Yeah, those never get crossed. The IP is the same. The ports are different. The origins, the source ports are different, and that's because when the request goes back, they go to different ports, and your router knows that it's internal. Like that port is given to Dom's computer, and that other port is given to Dom's spouse's computer, right? So that's fine as long as you're the one initiating all of the. If you initiate the connection, then your router can kind of maintain that mapping, right?
Oh, but if I'm the other player, is it trickier? Like if someone starts this for multiplayer, does someone have to initiate and someone has to like sort of wait until they receive the correct
exactly
ping?
Like how do you start
Yeah.
and then how do you know which ports to be sending it to? That's
Yeah.
all the Webrtc negotiation, and it ends up like relying on a stun server, which is basically you basically figure out that negotiation by having a computer figure it out. And if it's not our respective routers figuring it out, because they don't really know how to talk to each other, there's no protocol for them to like negotiate this transaction. You basically write an application that can do that, and that's what the stun server is, right? You both dial in there, and you say, "Hey, this is me. This is the port that I'm going to be on."
That makes sense. You both connect, and then you sort of like take the wires and just like plug them into each other.
Exactly.
And call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More or less, right? So that's WebRTC, and it's just super complicated and unpalatable.
Yeah. I'm not so. From everything we've seen, I guess I'm not convinced. Well, the transit time being able to get messages to each other faster would be great. So,
oh yeah,
I'm not convinced I'll be wrong, but I feel like there's something still.
There's a lot we can do. There's a lot we can do in our own code. Is that what you're getting at? Is like there's probably more we can do internally to make this better.
Yeah, well, the way we see the waiting for servers sort of pop up when we're both connected, I think is. I feel like there's something we have sort of like.
Oh, 100%.
One of our maths is not quite right. Yeah.
100%. I think we don't deal very well with the situation that one computer is running faster than another. Like neither of us can consistently hit 60. And in fact, we may actually vary by wild amounts. And ideally, if I'm running at 45, probably you should be running at 45 as well, right? Yep. And you should gradually approach 45 over time.
But when we're the fact that we can independently run at 60 makes me think that we should be able to also together run at 60.
Yeah, and at that point it gets a little bit complicated because we can run at 60 on average over the last 3 seconds, but what really matters is that we're running at relatively the same rate within the client buffer size, or within either of these two numbers that we're tweaking, like max predicted frames and client buffer size. It's that space within that window we need to be consistently running at a decent frame rate, or else we're going to see artifacts. Like one of us is going to hit the limit, and like within like maybe a 7-frame window, one of our computers could be running a little bit slow and maybe be fully 7 frames behind the other player, or only 3 frames behind, but because of the network latency of sending our stuff to the server, it ends up being 7 frames behind in aggregate.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes analysis. Now, we shouldn't feel bad about any of this stuff. Like if you think about like the Killer Instinct article talks about the Mortal Kombat video. It's funny, there's all these like fighting games. But they talk about the Mortal Kombat video that I think is a really good watch, and we originally got the idea of that video from Steve. I think he was the one that brought it to our attention. And they had like 6 people working on it for 10 months, right?
Right. I was gonna say, like, this is, yeah. I know that everyone
and
doing
this is just
got to do it full time and like
just
was the
rollback
network
networking.
engineer.
Just rollback networking, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't actually feel like we've even scratched the surface necessarily on what we are capable of in that respect.
Yeah. But we want to make sure that we're, we can move forward and have a satisfying multiplayer experience. And so that's where the compromises come in, right? Like, and there's lots of different things that we can do to solve the problem. One is that we have no sudden moves, which is kind of rough, right? We want to have nice things. But if we, so I think we're actually talking about maybe a couple different problems, right? Like, I think the sort of like the fact that we're not able to run at a smooth frame rate is one problem that I think we have a lot more control over right now in terms of our code. The popping and the teleportation with the dashes, that's just because the dash is fucking fast, right? How fast is the dash right now?
The dash is pretty fast. I don't know, what is dash speed? It's a lot. It's like one tile per frame. No, it's a lot.
60 times tile size divided by 1.25. So that's divided by 1.25 is divided by is 4/5, right?
Yeah. So 0.8 tiles per frame.
Okay. So we dash and the duration is the other thing. It only goes for 6 frames.
Right. So in 6 frames we dash 5-ish tiles.
And in 6 frames, if you think about it. Okay, let's say
that's fast.
It's fast. So I hit the button to dash. That immediately sends a packet to the server, and then the server gets it and then relays it over to all the other clients.
Yep, that's probably been 8 frames.
Yeah, how many frames has that been?
Yeah.
And
we
only have a 3. And assuming that both clients are the exact same frame at the same time, we're delaying it 3 frames into the future, right? So we're giving ourselves a little bit of leeway, right? Now, if we turned up that input delay like hugely to like 10, the dash should no longer be a teleport. We should be able to see the dash completely. Does that make sense?
I think that's correct. Yeah. And we can do that right now if you want to try it.
Okay. Let's try and see if my analysis here or the way I'm talking about it makes any sense at all.
All right, we are in 2 players. Got a 1.
Okay.
Got a 2.
Oh my god, that's really hard. And I'm dashing.
Your dashing looks totally normal. I assume mine does as well.
Your dash, yeah, I can see you from start to finish, basically. Yep. Now, it's a fast dash to begin with. Actually, you know what? Dash again.
I'm trying. There we go.
It's still kind of teleporty for me.
I mean, to be fair, the dash is kind of teleporty even.
No, but I'm comparing the way my dash looks to the way that your dash looks.
Yours? Oh yeah, you just pop.
Yeah. So maybe we have more than 10 frames of delay. Let's try something absurd like 20. Right.
All right. Let's do it. That would be shocking, but I'll buy it. Whew. Okay, wait, now I gotta stop. Okay, so if I dash, oh, it's really hard to dash now.
Yours is still popping. That's a mystery.
Okay, then that makes me think we got something a little wrong. Here, yeah, you want to dash up and down? Come back up. Oh, wow, yeah, you're just popping around, yeah.
So we got something wrong, right? It shouldn't do that.
That's great though.
Yeah.
I feel very positively about that because we can work with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking one thing we could do. Boy, that's weird. One thing we could do also is like the dash could have a little wind up where there's like 2 or 3 frames of easing in and maybe 1 frame of easing out of it if we wanted to try to get as much of the motion on the other player's screen as possible.
Yeah.
I feel like fast motion may come with the trade-off of we have to tune the fast motion, but that seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of this input delay stuff ends up getting hidden behind stuff, right? So ultimately, it's about increasing that input delay, and we can have that delay for particular moves. I would say general input delay should probably not be anything more than 3, right? It starts to feel really weird, right?
3, yeah, but three alone is a nice buffer. And it's shocking to me that our dash doesn't translate across that one when we delay it all the way.
Right? Like, I wonder why that's the case.
Yeah, that really surprised me. I expected it to work the other way. It's cool. I'm glad we have this control in there now. I wonder if we sent it into the future frame. This really should have gotten played back.
Yeah.
Without skipping the beat. So,
because by the time that, like basically what we're saying is that the frame that we're projecting that dash input into should have already been received by the other clients before they even start predicting that dash, right?
Long ago.
Yeah.
Cool. That actually is a nice concrete mystery because that's just not working as expected.
Yeah.
Versus the mysteries of how slow the network is. That one we can simulate.
Yeah, I wonder, is there a way to measure our ping, or like, is there a way to measure the actual like latency?
That's a great question. I have to see where our WebSocket stuff actually comes in too.
And I think I'm asking a complex question because I'm trying to measure how long it takes for one of your messages to get to me.
Mm-hmm.
And by how long, I'm actually measuring it in terms of frames that you simulate, right? Like, or frames that I simulate. So I'm talking about like absolute time, I suppose. Boy, the game looks kind of cool when it's zoomed out like that, isn't it?
It totally does, yeah.
I like how we still have the dog in. That dog's probably not going to go away for a couple streams, right?
This dog lives here now.
Should there be there should be probably there should be a tank that is one of the tanks that you can play in the game is the dog. We've already got our first Easter egg.
Yeah. Maybe only the dog can dash. Yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder if we could maybe slow the simulation down and sort of watch our messages one by one and do it and track it that way. Just because at 4,000 frames, this is getting unwieldy.
Oh, that is, yeah. How do we slow? Not having control over frame rates is tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, that definitely gives me some ideas about like better, maybe some debug modes for this game and for this mode where we could like slow it down and yeah.
Frame rate independence is a bitch. Like if we wanted to suppose like we notice that one of the clients is just running slow and we need to give them time to catch up, which means that we need to slow the other clients down, right? How do we do that? Do we tell them to just skip an update every two frames?
Doesn't that dramatically impact their ability to like play
Play?
competitively? Yeah.
It kind of does. Like, okay, well, what does it mean if you're running at 60 FPS and we want you to run at 50 FPS
hmm
and you balance out skipped frames? What does that come out to? That's a little math puzzle for you. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if you're running at 60 FPS right now, and we want you to run at 50 FPS, what is your like?
Oh.
And let's say we're averaging over just like long term, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is the interval between dropped frames?
Oh, that's interesting. Right. There's a full. Do we make you we make you wait every sixth frame for catch up, or do we
Right, because you
make you
basically
drop
need to
10 at a
lose.
time, which
You need
sounds
to
worse?
basically
Yeah.
lose that much, right? Let's make the numbers a little
Yeah.
bit easier. Let's say you're running at like 100 frames per second, and we want you
hmm
to go down to 90.
hmm
You would drop every ninth, 10th
Every 10th
frame.
frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Does that make sense? Like if you just take
It does.
take
Yeah.
the 1 second, you have 100 frames. And if you
Yeah.
drop every
Yeah. Yeah.
ninth, 10th frame, then you lose 10 frames. You're just subtracting 10 off those number of frames. So you have 90 of them, right?
Oh yeah, that part makes sense. I guess I'm just trying to think of like what happens if you made an input on a frame that we dropped. Like how are we? Do we just sort of push it off to the next one and you've done less simulation, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, input handling is a really hard problem in that case, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you might have pressed and then unpressed a key. I mean, probably you didn't do it within the space of a single frame.
Not within one frame, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it is technically possible. And how do we handle that, right?
Interesting. Okay.
You could just splay it, right? You could just say that like, oh, a button has to be held down at least one. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd have to basically write your own like input smoothing layer where like if you detect clicks that are like less than 2 frames apart,
Mhm.
maybe that's not maybe that's a continuous button press in term like as far as your game is concerned, right? That could be a
Right.
way to handle it.
hmm
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess also like we could just hold on to input and like use it for the next frame. If we're telling you to drop this one,
Yeah.
we just push it ahead one. Uh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Netcode never goes away.
It doesn't really go away. Yeah. But the problem that we're trying to solve here is about like catch up. Just to kind of like zoom back out. It's about like what
Yeah.
happens if another computer is just like consistently running faster than the other one.
Yeah, well, I think the notion of two computers both kind of running fast. Oh, actually, here, pop back on real quick.
Okay.
I realized that there's a thing we didn't do, which is I didn't actually go over ngrok. I was connected locally. You were connected to ngrok, and that's not fair.
Oh.
If that makes sense, yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna restart. Wait. Boy, I think did I lose the game? Sorry, I killed the game. Uno momento. Okay, try again.
Yep. I'm in. I'm getting 60 pretty consistently right now.
As am I. It's jerky.
It's jerky.
And it's weird, like my updated FPS
sorry, go ahead.
my updated FPS is 60, but does not feel 60, if that makes sense.
I think it might be because any frame that we wait for the server is counting counting towards our FPS. And in those frames, we do nothing, right?
Yep.
Like, we can change the metric so that is not... That's a little bit less misleading, right?
Right. Let me bump the client buffer size up now. So this is gonna
This was it
not
at,
let up.
was it at 7 this time?
That was 7, yeah. This is 15 on the server. The client's still only letting you get up to 7 ahead though.
Okay, I'm still getting a lot of waiting for server, which seems to account for
Yeah,
the chop. Yeah.
I agree.
Waiting for server is what we call net pause. It means the server is not willing to wait for other clients.
Yep.
This is
Cool.
much smoother.
So this is 12 frames of prediction. Your tick MS is pushing it. I feel like we're not going to hit 60 because mine is, yeah.
My tick MS is 3 milliseconds right now. What's yours?
Okay. Mine's more in the range of 6.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, now it's 10.
Oh, yeah.
Just because we got close to the turrets. But my
update
FPS,
yeah.
My update's 45, but the game feels smoother because we're not waiting for net pause.
Yeah, the game's there's still a little bit of chop for me, and I think it's because I'm hitting net pause.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's better, right?
Smoother,
yeah. Okay.
And
yeah,
what happens if we try to shoot at each other? How does it feel? Boy, I wish we had particles so we could see the hits.
Yeah. Just turn on the debug draw.
Oh,
debug draw's particle mode.
Yeah, but I can't tell what's actually hitting and what's not, right?
Oh, fair.
I think
I'm dead. So yeah.
So that actually felt good.
Nice.
That felt good. I couldn't tell whether the game was cheating me on hits or not because there aren't particles and there's no health bar.
Mm-hmm.
But it looked good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Which is interesting. Okay, so those values just need tuning then. I'm gonna leave these in because they're at least our best tune so far.
Okay. I wonder why it was so slow on your side. Is it because you're running the game as well and Zoom?
Why my tick MS is maybe slightly slower than yours?
Why is your tick MS is actually way higher than mine?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I don't know. My CPUs actually seem pretty on the chill side. So. So here's an interesting one actually. I'm connected. I'm in single player mode, but I'm talking to the server over ngrok. And maybe this is how we should be playing it more.
Yeah. And that is already slowing you down.
It's 55 and I'm waiting for the server. And I feel like this should be doable.
Yeah.
So I guess going straight to localhost has been the thing that is really just
you're right to say that we should be going through ngrok more.
Yeah.
Because we should be simulating the network round trip, which this definitely does. It's actually going through ngrok first, right?
Which I'm hoping, they honestly, no, I was going to say I hope they're a low latency proxy, but like, I don't think they necessarily want game servers to run through them, so maybe not.
What is interesting to me is that the browser seems so much slower, right? Why is the tick MS so high?
The browser seems slower versus this, where my tick MS just sort of plummets.
Is it because... Well, if you're waiting for server, is it because the server frames that you're getting are so delayed that you're actually doing more resim? That must be it.
I think that's it, because my frames ahead right now is 1, versus frames ahead of server here is 8.
That's really bad.
So this is the latency. That's good though.
It is because the server can handle it, right? The server's FPS is 110. Like the server is
clicking, yeah.
So we are looking at going through ngrok and basically, it's 10 frames of latency round trip. That's fucking horrible. And if it's
not great
peer to peer, then would it be 5?
That's a good question. I think so.
Maybe even less than 5, because you wouldn't be going to ngrok either, right?
Yeah. If we were doing peer-to-peer, would we introduce would it just be the two of us, or would we introduce that third like authority figure? Is there a player zero that is this? Is there a player zero that's the server? Yeah.
If the server is doing the if we did peer-to-peer, we would send to basically, we'd make, every time there's an input message, it would go to n other computers, where n is the number of players. It wouldn't go to you, but it would go to the server. So the server basically, like, you're a -1 to that number, but then the server's a +1, right?
Gotcha. Yeah. Totally. I see. So really, peering is only for getting the messages to other people as fast as possible, and the server
for the purposes of their prediction. Like yes.
Yeah. That's cool. Cool. All right.
I didn't even intend for this particular conversation to be this session to be about networking, but I think that's the way it goes.
Me neither, but I was gonna say sometimes the net play just happens to you. So, this is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. That puts us at an interesting crossroads. Like, how far do we abandon? Like, because it's not playable over the network right now. Let's say.
Yeah. Well, here's my thought. WASM doesn't solve this.
No.
Right? Yeah.
I wasn't going to propose that WASM was the solution to this. I think WASM is definitely like a side hustle.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to get like what irons we had in the fire and what was useful. And I feel like this frames ahead of server is sort of like a new challenge that we don't have anything sort of cooking for yet.
Right. Can I join your game?
Oh yeah, let me put it back up to 2.
Okay.
Hop on in.
All right. My frames ahead of server is about 10. Mine's like, yeah, it's occasionally creeps above 10.
Mine's just hovering at a nice 9.8.
Okay.
I feel like I have the advantage of I'm at least as fast as the server network-wise.
Yeah, I wonder why your frames ahead of server is slightly better than mine.
That is a good question.
It should be kind of equal, right? Because we're both going to ngrok.
Mm-hmm.
And then ngrok is reaching out to your server. So the round trips kind of look the same, right? Network-wise?
I guess I'm not super. I'm curious sort of how the proxy setup works, but I guess theoretically I have a shorter physical hop to get back to my own computer.
You do, but
the one frame difference could very well be Yeah,
exactly. I thought if there is like an efficiency on a networking level, you would think that the difference between your frames ahead of server and mine would be like massive. You know what I mean? If there's anything that it could take advantage of, like it realizes that it's actually But the thing is, like, ngrok should not be spilling the beans, right? ngrok should be saying like, oh, I even if I know that it's going back to the same computer, I cannot let the client know that, right? And so, yeah. But this is actually, I'm glad that you pointed this out. This is a really interesting scientific kind of like thing to point out. I would actually say, I think that our latency, if I'm connecting directly to your computer. Actually, can we do that? No, we can't. We have to be on ngrok. There's no way I can connect directly to your computer. Yeah. I guess if we ran the game server on AWS.
Let me see if I got a public IP.
Or if you added a DMZ to your router, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not asking you to do right now.
No. I'm just gonna. Yeah, that's not out there. So.
Yeah.
Right. So the one option would be connect directly. Though, like that would extremely advantage me, right? Because I would have a direct connection, and you wouldn't.
Next time we do this, I think what I'd be excited to do is fire up the cloud dev script, because the game server would then be running on a neutral a neutral ground. And
that sounds great.
I bet the FAOS is going to be half. I bet it's going to be like 5, right?
By being in like what is meant to be a network infrastructure hub instead of like someone's home fiber, yeah.
Well, it's just that there's not 2 hops. Because right now there's 2 hops. Ngrok is tunneling for you, right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's try that next time. I'm sold.
Okay. Or offline or whatever. We'll try it sometime.
Yeah. But I bet you're right. And like maybe we use the remote dev and we can just be working on a server that is better.
Yes.
Just better.
And then I think what we are going to want to see is, I think there's a little bit of a Heisenberg effect here, because if frames ahead of server is really high, that means you're going to be doing more resim, which means you're going to be slower. Which means I don't know how that affects the frames ahead of server number. Technically, it should limit it because the server should then be waiting for you more, right?
Which I think is like maybe. Is that where we are right now? Did we get disconnected, or are we both stopped putting input?
I think I might have closed my. Oh no, my browser's still. I can still drive around. Yeah.
So it's really interesting. I couldn't move around until you did that.
Oh, you know what it was? My browser was backgrounded, and because of that,
yeah.
You know how like browsers will stop processing.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we had a slow client. Yeah.
Exactly. Still, this is exciting and fun. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shoot you. I did actually mean to shoot you.
How dare?
Yeah.
No, this is great.
I like how like I have a Nyan cat, like if with the debugger on, it kind of looks like Nyan cat. But it's a dog.
Yeah, you got a little tracer, yeah.
And also the tracer on the gun as well is like super fabulous.
I love that. I mean, again, this aesthetic, I kind of want to keep.
Okay, yeah.
It just looks. I mean, this can be our particle emitter, but it looks great.
Yeah, it looks cool.
I'm gonna take that low battery warning and the fact that it's 9:15 as the sign that we should piece. Okay. Apparently my computer's not been plugged in this whole time, but bless these M1s.
Yeah, that seems totally reasonable. Low battery warning on an M1, crazy.
I mean, I've got 10%, so that's like 3 hours. But
okay, yeah. All right, man. Well, once again, I didn't mean for that to be a net play thing, but we dove right into it. You were game for it. I was game for it.
I'm always. I mean, like I'm no longer afraid of net play. Now I'm just like. Have like a righteous anger at it where I'm like, we're gonna.
Yeah, I can tell your head is very much in the problem right now, which is cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we made progress, importantly. So,
we did.
Heck yeah.
We did. Yeah.
All right, sweet. Goodbye to the Twitch.
Okay. See you, everybody.